Welcome, and thank you for joining me on the mat today for our prenatal yoga. Today, we're going to be giving a little bit of extra focus on our shoulders and our back. So, you will want two props for today's class. First, being a yoga strap, a belt, tie, a scarf, something that is a little bit flexible. You could use a broomstick as well for this if that's all you have, but not something nice and long. And then we are going to be doing a couple exercises with a chair. You can use a stool as well. Something about chair height, though. A table or anything like that. Counter might be a little too high, but if that's what you've got, you can follow along and work with it as you can. So let's just start with that tall seated position. I'll invite you to close the eyes. Just starting to bring some of that awareness inwards and onto your breath. Allowing a few natural breaths to help you start to feel grounded and just present. Letting go of any of the other distractions around you. And just dedicating this time on the mat for yourself and for your baby. Start to take some deeper breaths in and out through the nose. As you inhale, let the rib cage and the upper chest expand. As you exhale, let them relax to that neutral position. If you are still early in your pregnancy, you may be able to do some belly breaths as well. So if you're comfortable, you can breathe in and let the belly expand as well, then the rib cage, then the chest, and then gently exhale, relax everything. Belly just comes back to that neutral position. And of course, as you get later into your pregnancy and baby takes up a little more space, that breath is all going to be in the rib cage and the chest. Let's bring some of that awareness down into our pelvic floor as well. So as you inhale, the lungs and the diaphragm expand and that pelvic floor drops. As you exhale and make a little space, pelvic floor lifts. These pelvic floor exercises are very helpful for when we go into labor, as well as after, keeping that pelvic floor strong. So even if you only have about 5 or 10 minutes every day to do some exercises or some meditation, this breath with the pelvic floor will be super helpful for you. All right, let's take a couple big shoulder rolls just to get that upper body warmed up a little bit. And also so it's a little less intense when we get into our yoga strap here. Good. Find some stillness. We are going to come right into that yoga strap. Doing this one first will allow us a little bit of a break in between doing the shoulder exercises and then coming into tabletop when we're on our hands and knees. So our first one, we're going to take those straps quite wide, and you really just need enough space to clear your head and come back as far as you can. If your shoulders are really tight, you may only be able to come down this far, but perhaps you can come all the way back down towards the earth. And if you're finding this a little easy because you have a little bit more flexibility in your shoulders, you can bring the hands in a little bit closer. Keep that tall spine. And just some slow movements here. See if you can time it with your breath. Inhale to lift and exhale, bring it back behind you. If you have a mirror, doing a couple of these exercises in front of the mirror can help you just check in with your shoulders. Sometimes one shoulder is going to lift a little bit higher. You'll get that little not quite straight line. And that's perfectly all right. That just means maybe one of your shoulders is a little bit tighter. Perhaps you've overworked it this week. Perhaps you've had a recent injury. Perhaps you slept on it funny. The aim is to try and keep those shoulders even, but we also want to give the weaker shoulder, the tired shoulder, just a little bit more grace. So if you do find one is lifting, perhaps take the arms a little bit wider apart to help with that. All right, once you bring it back into the front, give it a little rest, a little wiggle. And then we're going to take the hands about knee distance here. Inhale, lift it up. And this time as we exhale, we're going straight back behind our head, as if we've got some of those heavy weights. Then lift it up to center, and then back into the front. Working on that range of motion in the shoulders, but also bringing it back to the front gives our shoulders a little bit rest. And this motion behind us helps with our posture, as well as with that upper body strength, and that upper body just feeling a little bit more comfortable, less strained. If you are still working at a desk or even in retail, sometimes you're hunched over whatever it is you're doing. So these exercises are really helpful to just relax the shoulders. I'll take this last one. Good. And again, relax, a little wiggle. Bring those hands in a little bit closer. This time they're going to be about shoulder distance apart. Inhale straight up towards the ceiling. And at some point you'll notice as your hands go back, your chest wants to come forward, and we want to stop before that. Again, we're working on that range of motion in the shoulders. And although that chest coming forward feels really good, that's a different exercise. If the chest comes forward even a little bit, that's still fine, but we want to try and control the motion. And if you start to notice any real uncomfortableness in a shoulder, or you're getting a lot of popping, bring the arms just a touch wider so they don't become as wide as the knees. So we're still limiting the range of motion, but perhaps those shoulders can just be a little bit more comfortable. All right, last one. And then relax. Set that strap off to the side, somewhere out of your way. We are done with him. Again, a little bit of motion in the shoulders, a little bit of side bending so we can get into the rest of our back. Left hand to the earth. Inhale, right arm up and over. Short little holds. Inhale through center. Exhale, other side. Good. Again, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Inhale back to center. Take a little pause. Grow tall. Send that right hand slightly back behind you. Left hand to knee or thigh or belly, wherever is comfortable. Grow tall through the spine first. And then just twist with your shoulders and your neck. Now again, if you are still in your early stages of pregnancy, you might find you can twist your belly a little bit still. But as your belly grows, you won't be able to twist, and it'll be quite uncomfortable to even try to move the belly. Good. Gently back to center. Switch it up. Again, grow tall And then twist shoulders and neck. Gently back to center, grow tall. And we're going to come over into our tabletop position. So hands and knees, wrists should be below the shoulders. Fingers spread nice and wide, and knees in line with the hips. The knees can be a little bit wider if you need that extra space, but we just don't want the belly or hips in front or behind the knees. We're just going to start actually with some little wrist stretches. So send the weight forward and then relax back. Almost bringing the palms up off the earth. And start to take some circles. Just some small ones. Opposite direction. Good. You can sit back up off those wrists. Give them some just gentle circles. All right, and then back to our hands and knees. Coming back into our back stretches. Little bit of push into the earth. Inhale, let your belly drop even further. Chest lifts. Gaze forward. Lengthen through the crown of the head. Exhale to round the spine. Head drops. And shoulders try and round. This is our cat-cow, and we're just going to move through it. Whatever pace is feeling good in your body. Just keeping in mind faster breath and of course faster movement may bring a little extra warmth into your body. And if you are in your third trimester and you're already starting to feel quite warm in general, that might not be something you're looking for. So you're more than welcome to take it nice and slow. You can even pause at either end. You can take some movements at either end as well. Little wiggles. Kind of just creating that space between each of the vertebrae. Take about one more round of breath. And then we'll come back to a neutral spine. We're going to bring those hands quite far to the top of the mat. And the feet should be about at the back of the mat, just depending on how tall you are. And you can adjust in just a moment. We're going to come into a puppy pose. And that's going to keep the hips and the knees aligned with one another. And then because our hands are starting to come out, you'll start to see that we have to sink forehead towards the earth. And knees can go a little bit wider if you need that extra space for baby. Getting into those shoulders. Taking a couple deep breaths here. Gently bring the hands back in so you can come back up to your tabletop. And let's just compare that with our child's pose. So bring the big toes to touch, knees as wide as you need them. Hands perhaps need to walk back out, and then forehead and the chest towards the earth. You may find this is a little bit more of a passive pose. But if you want a little activation, lift the elbows up, and then start to pull the shoulders back towards your hips. Your hands are glued there. Good. Bring your elbows back down to the earth if they were up. Hands come into prayer. And then point the fingers either up towards the ceiling or back towards your hips. Just a little variation. Perhaps feels better in the shoulders than when they were down. And if you're unsure, you can kind of move between the two. Good, and then we'll just come back right out. Back into that tabletop position. And we are going to come up for some standing movements here. Get into our hips because those are super important. So even though our focus is on our back and our shoulders today, definitely want to get some hip exercises in. So tuck the toes underneath. If you're feeling quite dizzy these days, just come into a stand-up position, however is comfortable for you. If you can, downward dog, another great way to stretch those shoulders. So tucking the toes, press through the hands, generous bend in your knees, press the chest back towards the thighs, and then you can walk everything towards one another. If you need to, use those hands or hips to rise back up. All right, give everything a little bit of a movement. We're going to take those legs, those feet nice and wide on the mat. Hands can just be at your hips. If you are trying to strengthen them, you're more than welcome to take them out to the side as well. We're just going to be bending into one knee, back up to center. Bend and release. You're finding it quite with the arms out. You can create a little movement with the arms as you straighten, lift, sink it back down. And again, if your hands are tired or just kind of feeling awkward, just bring them to your hips. Not going too deep into this stretch, more so just getting those hips warmed up. All right, back into center. Tall spine, keep those legs wide. We're going to take a nice flat back forward fold. Coming only so far as you can keep that flat back, but also probably not more than halfway. Inhale back up, especially if you are feeling a little bit dizzy. Your hands can be at your hips. They can be at your baby if that helps feel, if the baby's feeling quite heavy today. Yeah. Last one. Let's hold this one just because. Lengthen through the crown of the head. See if you can get a little bit more space between each of the vertebrae. And then grow tall. Good. Walk those feet in. We're going to do one more little leg exercise. So coming into our goddess pose, hands can be hips, heart center, of course, baby, or send them up towards the ceiling. If you send them up, try not to raise your shoulders up to your ears. Keep them a little bit relaxed. We're going to start off with gentle pulses. 2 little pulses. Press back up. As you rise, really think of pressing through the heels and hugging the inner thighs together. We're strengthening that inner thigh. We're strengthening that pelvic floor. All right, 2 rounds with a hold for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press up. Again. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Relax. Give those legs a shake. We're going to grab our chair. So as you may already know, forward folds, complete forward folds during pregnancy are not necessarily recommended because we can get dizzy. It also creates a challenge for just some spacing. Belly is in the way, baby is in the way. So typically nowadays when I have to do my forward fold, my feet end up being quite wide to make space. If I have my feet together, I can't come down quite as far, which is fine. We can use a chair as well to help us get the feeling of a forward fold, that stretch in the lower back without us getting dizzy. So you can have your feet about hip distance apart or whatever feels most comfortable for you and what stage of pregnancy you're at. You will need to be back a little bit away from your chair, but we'll adjust as we get down into that fold. Check in that you've got the inside edge of the feet going forward, and we're really gluing down into the front two balls of the feet and the heel. So perhaps you can lift those toes for a moment, feel the weight equally, and then release the toes back down. Grow tall. Inhale, reach the arms up. As you exhale, hands come through heart center, trying to keep a flat back, kind of like that diver's fold, and then hands down to the chair. Press into the chair just a little bit with the hands, lengthen the crown of the head, and then let it relax. We're not reaching up towards the ceiling just yet. And if you find your hips are too far back, walk your feet back, or again, walk them forward so that your hips and your ankles are still stacked on one another. Let yourself kind of be heavy. If you need to, you can bring a little bit more bend in the knees. Extra pressing into the hands. This time, lift the chest kind of into that cow position. And the gaze lifts. Lengthen through the crown of the head. Ooh, exhale, relax back down. Good. Inhale, press into the chair, lift up, gaze up. Exhale, release. And one more, press and lift. Exhale, release. All right, we're going to keep those legs and the left hand where it is. Right hand's going to come up towards the ceiling, and you're going to give a little bit of an extra bend into that left knee. Reach it up, kind of this twist. And then exhale, send it through. Now we're bending into the right knee as that hand reaches. Only so far as you can. The belly is just going to prevent you at some point. And then inhale, back up. My legs or my knees are moving with me. Reach. Again. One more. Finish with a reach to the ceiling though. And then release back to the chair. All right, left side. So right knee bends, left arm lifts. Exhale through, left knee bends. Kind of like we're walking. Inhale. Exhale. Keep pressing into that right hand. Feet are still glued to the earth. And again, we're going relatively slow and controlled. Good, last reach to the ceiling. And then we'll come back down to our tabletop position. Give a little wiggle of those shoulders, of those hips, and the back. And then you can gently come off the chair. Place that chair out of the way. And we are gently going to come back down to the earth. One more little exercise for the shoulders and the back as we're seated. And of course, you could have also done this from the chair if that felt more comfortable for you as well. We're going to interlock the fingers. This is a seated cat-cow, so if you are not feeling like you want to come onto your hands or knees, or you're at a desk somewhere, this is a great alternative. Hands come together, like I said, press the palms out and then reach up, grow tall through the spine, look up, chest forward. As you exhale, come back down, reverse the palms, let them pull the shoulders forward, head drops, spine starts to round. And we're just going to take 3 more. Inhale, lift it up. Nice and slow. Exhale, pull forward. Trying to breathe in and out through the nose. Exhaling through our nose actually helps us slow down the breath. All right, this is our last one. And then relax back into center. Grow tall through the spine. Perhaps those shoulders can use an extra little movement, maybe an extra little movement in the neck. And a side to side. Whatever's feeling good for a moment. Good. Grow tall. I'll invite you to close the eyes once more. Coming back to the breath. Some slightly deeper breaths. Allowing all of the good movement we just did to settle into our body. Let it be absorbed before we rush off to whatever else we need to do today. Perhaps bringing some awareness into our body. How does that body feel now after moving? Perhaps how does baby feel? Perhaps they were quite active before you started class and now they're just calm. And perhaps they've noticed you've slowed down and stopped moving and they've become quite active again. There's nothing wrong with either option. It's just nice to have some observation into what is going on in our bodies and the miracle that we are currently producing. Let's take 2 last deep breaths together. As you inhale, perhaps you can reach those arms up, grow even taller. Exhale, side out, relax. One more. Let those hands rest together at heart center. Let those shoulders be heavy and head and neck almost feel like they're floating. I thank you for joining me on the mat today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. The light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. Namaste.